Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of Tales from Outer Space. I hope you enjoy. Story number 1. The Lost Paths of the Fallen Empire, written by Perilous Platypus. The humans were unexpected. I did not say this to imply any judgment on their arrival. I merely stated as a fact. Humanity arrived long after the loss of empire. The gates of the carrot had fallen quiet, and so followed 4 generations of war, famine, and death as the Carrotan struggled with the absence of everything that had made life possible. How fragile a thing modernity is. How quickly its roots evaporated when the access to the base materials were removed. Between the Great Betrayal and the appearance of humanity, the population of Carrot declined by 85%. No fewer than 16 sentient species, non-natives from other portions of the Endless Empire, were eradicated. Only 4 races remained. 1 originally indigenous to Carrot, and 3 that were capable of adaptation without the resources of modernity. Carrot was not a jewel of the Empire, but it had been an important waypoint between such cradles. Through the gates had come a great bounty, and Carrot had diligently passed it along minus a reasonable tax. It was a vibrant and healthy trade hub, an ardent contributor to the Empire. Until it was not. It is difficult to get much clarity on the events precipitating the Great Betrayal beyond to say that it was also a time of rumor and chaos. Word of dark gates spread, widespread stories of great calamity within the core. And then, nothing. The gates fell quiet, and they were never restored. I recite this history dispassionately, as it is a historian's job to do. But I must confess that the horrors of the decline touched everyone, including myself. There seemed to be no end to the loss of civilization. At best, there were moments of stasis, brief respites of the various combatants gathered their resources before recommencing their onslaught in pursuit of what little was left. Carrot was embroiled in a 7th war of scarcity when humanity appeared in the skies above. We had long since lost power of space travel, the local materials on Carrot being insufficient for the maintenance of advanced technologies, and so the craft were initially mistaken as a return of Empire. A great rejoicing occurred amongst the restorationists, along with a great and immediate swelling of their numbers. It took some time and a great deal of confusion for the matter to be clarified. These were humans. They were not from the Empire. They had discovered the gates, their purpose, and had begun to restore them to use. They came because they were curious. Confusion. Outrage. Very little of this made sense or was in any way acceptable amongst a great portion of the Carrotans. Humanity was not even a constituent race of the Empire. They were entirely unknown. More troubling, humanity, despite having restored approximately 20 gates, had yet to come into contact with the Empire. Indeed, Carrot was the first planet where inhabitants still persisted. In all cases, the planets had been lifeless, often reduced to husks. Though the humans confirmed that signs of fallen civilization remained amidst the ruin. This initial interaction caused some schism amongst the Carrotans. The restorationists largely refused interaction, claiming that humanity's presence was profane and all who dealt with them would be treated harshly when the Endless Empire returned. The other factions were considerably more open to interaction, though some hostility and jousting for position took place amongst them. Thankfully, I was born into a family and a faction that embraced these newcomers. I am fascinated by humanity. They seem so foreign to us, but somehow so friendly. It is difficult to imagine a species that takes to the stars for the purpose of idle exploration, rather than purely expansion. They seem more interested in us and our culture than the materials they may harvest. Establishing a means of effective communication took some time, but once a means of decoding their missives was established, we reviewed their first messages to Carrotan upon their arrival. They were enshrined here as an indicator of the character of humanity. We are humans. We come from far away. We come in peace. Will you speak with us? They have been free with their technology, despite the significant gaps in biology between humanity and the various races present on Carrotan. They have developed a number of tools that have immediately remedied some of our most persistent maladies. The wasting plague is gone, so too the crust and halving syndrome. They have shown a great interest in the artifacts of Empire, and members of our faction have been free in providing access and instruction where both remain to us. It is difficult to parse their expressions at times, but if we are to take their words at the plain meaning, the Empire surpassed aspects of humanity's current technologies in certain significant respects. They believe it'll take some time to understand and incorporate them, but that such sharing will benefit Keratin and human alike. It is comforting to know that we have something to give, that our history might somehow enable our future rather than simply doom us. Each human is very different from another. They exhibit a strength of will and mind that is uncommon amongst the species of Empire. I have learned a word that describes my favorite type of human: quirky. This means the human will do unexpected things in particular and endearing ways. I think I am quirky amongst the Keratins. There is much more to be said, much more to consider. I will continue to document my interactions with humanity in this diary in order to preserve a proper historical record. Tomorrow, I am to spend time with my favorite quirky human, Laurus, discussing stellar cartography. Carrot is the first place humanity has discovered with many gates. They have never found a trade world. They are very curious. I will help them. End of story. Story number 2. Regularly scheduled maintenance, written by P4-34-M0. It was the end of the world. It hadn't come quickly or taken us by surprise. Scientists had been predicting it for years. A solar flare, the likes we'd never seen before, more powerful than we could imagine. At first, it was easy to think about, like the plot of a show being spoiled. But as the years and weeks wound down towards the projected date of the end, reality started to sink in. Our whole species, every single one of us, was doomed. There were attempts to save us, of course. Everyone and their father were out digging bunkers or hiding in caves. But what does protection matter when the atmosphere is stripped away and there isn't any air left to breathe? Governments launched shuttles, stores of genetic material, individuals, and culture to colonize our rocky planets and moons. But what safety is there when planets crack and fall to ash and dust? They tried to keep us calm, to let everyone know that we would be fine. But what good are words against the end of everything you know when looking up shows the truth? In the last year, the sun started to roll and boil. Obtuse, oblong shape shot out of its behemoths mass, scouring away the moon colonies and genetic stalls. Their screams and silence echoing hollow in our ears. In the last month, those not hiding in the caves and holes burned themselves under the empathic sun, rioting and spilling their hopeless anathema where they could, screaming and raging against the end. In the last week, the government shut their doors and silenced their voices, hungry and shivering in the dark with the rest of us, waiting for the end of all things. On the last day we waited and watched the sun swell and bulge and pulsate, watched it bleed fire and spew bile, frothing and screaming its rage at our poor, tiny planet. I watched it all unfold, just as I had predicted, mapped every inch with telescopes. I watched every second, every roll, every boil. I burned it out every lens and camera I had, hoping, praying that I would see something, anything but our inevitable end in the frightful inferno. And that's why I saw it. Not like us, slim, tall, too few eyes and too many limbs, pale, dressed in blue coveralls, one hand, with the sun in his palm. His body a hallucination of the mind, onset by the heat. His fingers blotted out the sun, set shadows dancing and eclipsed the world. And then he opened the sun with a hatch. I still hear the hinges squeaking in my nightmares. It has been 1.5 years since we all stared up into the sky, waiting for the end, and watched in abject horror as our sun, our doom, cracked open like a furnace and poked with tools bigger than a whole world's, worked on by hands that cupped its impossible blaze as carefully as an egg, closed up and locked with a key. burning as gently as it ever had. None of us could believe it, and we may not have if we hadn't got the bull a few days later, taped to the moon. Dan and Harding, Human Solar Maintenance, we make your day bright, or less bright. Consumer complaint, sun too hot, may explode. Technician diagnostic, exotic matter lodged in inner casing, causing instability in heating element. Matter resolved and complementary tuning performed. Solar diagnostic charge 1 million. Solar maintenance charge 1,408,002. Exotic mana disposal charge 1,000. Subtotal 2,409,000. Tax 10. Final total 2,409,010. Thank you for choosing Dan and Harding Human Solar Maintenance for all your solar upkeep needs. Addendum. Technical team dispatched the wrong system address. Maintenance performed in error. Please contact DHSM Consumer Service for more information or to schedule any further appointments. End of story. I would quickly like to thank the T5 channel members and Patreons. Caspar Arnholtz, Cam Maxwell, Lord Azrakal, It's Difficult to Pronounce, Dragzoon WRE, Holly's Sister, Arcadian. Thank you very much.